Define compromise. So there's the definition for compromise: an agreement or a settlement of a dispute that is reached by each side making concessions. Yet, somehow, I feel as though most people use this word in a completely broken way when it comes to relationships. What you should be hearing is that it's acceptable to both. Each side makes concessions, or mutual concession. But what do I hear more often than the above? You need to. You have to. You are going to have to compromise so they are comfortable, happy/ready. This doesn't sound like a compromise. It could be if the other person was also getting the above and each of you decided to come to a decision together so you both are comfortable. But we most often hear, you need to compromise, from friends and family, because that's who we turn to ask when we feel the need for help and we just can't understand what's going on with our significant other. The problem is, our family and friends are not seeing the entire picture either. This knee-jerk reaction to say, well, compromise, comes from a good place with good intent, but can often be ill-informed and cause an instant feel of guilt or insecurity in your own relationship. The minute you ask your friends and family what to do in a half-baked picture, the minute you muddy the waters with socially acceptable, make you feel better chatter, it is the significant other that needs to be having this conversation with you, due to compromise being such a personal and intimate need for two people who share a life together. If you are ever in a situation where there is a balance of power shift where you feel as though you have to compromise on who you are, it's no longer a compromise at all, but you submitting to a bad situation or one that needs work. When you compromise with a loved one, obviously you have to be humble and give a bit, but it is mutual. You don't leave it feeling as though it isn't better for the whole. You don't feel as though it is hindering you from being you because it is allowing you to love stronger, harder, and with more understanding. There is a negative compromise and a positive compromise. At the end of the day, you need to be ready to accept that when it is negative, you either need to stand your ground to keep who you are intact, or you must be able to come to the hard conclusion that the mutual compromises needed to make the relationship work are not actually mutual from your end of the spectrum. I am saying you a lot because it is a selfish side of being that needs to be kept intact. That sense of self can often be lost for many people in and through other people's needs and wants. So you feel like you are compromising so they are happy, but slowly you are breaking down all your own joy, creating a shell of who you could, can, and want to be. Eventually, you get beaten puppy syndrome, brought on by your own inability to know when it was no longer a compromise, but a, lack for a better term, deal breaker. No matter how you look at it, compromise is an agreement or a settlement of a dispute that is reached by each side making concessions. The textbook definition. Look, dating is scary, I get it, especially in the beginning, and even scarier as time goes on and more time is invested. But we, as a species, need to get over our shit when it comes to the idea that a relationship may or may not be working. I know I've been stuck in many in the past because I was too prideful, comfortable, naive to just tell the other person I was no longer happy and why. So me thinking I'm giving it my all is actually bringing down two people, my significant other and myself. Dating gets tiring, I get it, loud and clear. The fatigue that sets in from telling your intro story over and over. Getting excited because they said something in return that made you think it would be a beautiful together, or just dealing with the many incompatible people. Dating sucks. So why are we wasting time trying to negatively compromise instead of just moving on and trying the next person? Instead of juggling 50 at a time, shoot like an arrow. One at a time, your all, until you find it. No complication, confusion, and your intro story can be much different. Why? Because what if we all approach dating like talking? Telling our day, including ups and downs, day to day by person to person, living in that moment and not worrying about living vicariously through their social media history. So don't compromise on yourself, on who you are, and on how you date. But when you do meet that person who is right for you, remember this: compromise is a beautiful thing when done by the actual definition. But if you do it by the socially accepted viewpoint, it has a tendency to break you down. Compromise should not be a synonym for settling.